All right, so Site-27 campaign diary. I don't think I recorded any like main videos for this one so far, but quick recap. So, let me take this out. Now I can see better. So, I ran this campaign before with half of a different group. So there's some carryover, but bringing in 3 new players and 2 old players that were in this group before. This mission didn't want to, not exactly go easy on them or anything like that. That's not true. But a lower stakes kind of adventure, I use the term adventure loosely in Site-27, but a lower stakes kind of mission. Everything was a little goofy. There was a little bit of cartoon logic because it's fucking dado. If you're familiar with the SCP setting, I'm going to call it the setting now because that's what I'm using it as. But if you're familiar with the SCP wiki, you know what dado is. It's silly and potentially horrifying. That's how it goes. But so I think it went pretty well. Mostly it was a lot of getting the 3 new players kind of into the setting, familiar with the world, and kind of how I run the game. Because the only other game I've run for most of these players is the Contraria game, which is all randomly generated and as improv as possible. I avoid doing prep for that. So, for this, I did some prep here and there. The first half, it was really like the prep that I did was more like in regards to the narrative and like kind of what's going on, because trying to figure out a way to get the 3rd player, he didn't join until basically the end of the 3rd session of this mission, and then he missed the last session, so he was only actually playing for 45 minutes this whole mission. But I kind of set this one up so that he could have joined at any time. Kind of didn't matter, but not the point. So, ultimately, I'm trying to get it. I think it went well. For the, there was only 2 combats for this mission. It was against a manager that took a bunch of drugs that made him magic. And one of the main things... there was 3 combats. There was one earlier. But one of the main things is this drug that the party was trying to find. Mostly what it did is take those that took it partially out of the, quote, narrative, which is a pataphysical thing, which is a term in the SCP setting, meaning, in the same way metaphysical is outside of whatever you're discussing, pataphysical is discussing, the lens of looking at whatever it is as a narrative, as a story. And there's a lot of SCPs that deal with this concept, but it takes them kind of out of the narrative and therefore out of reality halfway. And a lot of what it lets them do, even though they sort of don't exist anymore, it lets them basically just write footnotes directly into the pages of the story, more or less. So that's what all the enemies they fought, there's wild magic surges constantly. Whenever they hit you, magic surge. Whenever they die, magic surge. There's a magic surge. It's all the time. I hope you like magic surges. So that was basically them just writing something in directly into the narrative. And there's a lot of different effects in the SCP setting, and I'm not going to go into all of them, but narrativistic effects are potentially the strongest because there's no way to resist them. It's like changing the source code in a video game or something. You can't do anything about it from the context of a character in the setting. So, but I mostly use this for like halfway comedic effect. There was some horror at the end, a little bit. Some stuff. Particularly, the final combat was against an entire office worth of like office workers congealed into a bunch of horrible flesh monstrosities. Par for the course. And what they did is they didn't do a whole lot of damage on a hit. I think it was like a D10 plus 5. Like, that's not that much damage. They did 2 attacks, so it's fine damage. Like, it's not a whole lot. Like, the barbarian in the party was just like, what do you guys do? What? Huh? Like, I was never like, but that's not what these monsters were really designed to do. Like, theoretically, if you've got 4 of them all on you, and there were 4 of them in there, then yeah, they could do damage, but they were spread out, and the party wasn't engaging them all at once. So, I wasn't really worried about that. One of the players did still go down, but that was as a result of a few things. Namely, one of their attacks, at least once per turn, would trigger a unique table that I came up with. Mildly inspired by, like, the Beholder's eye rays, that kind of thing. But it did a bunch of, the player would roll on a D8 and that would happen to them. And I think that's an important factor, actually, having the players roll, not you. One, it lets the players do stuff, which is fun. And it prevents me from rolling a bunch of dice all the time, and the players are just sitting there waiting for something to happen. Whereas I get to just say, okay, roll me this. They roll it. I see the number, and ooh, and I get to make that noise and get a reaction, and especially if they didn't see that effect yet. Each time they saw a new effect, it was like, what is it? What is it? But for some reason, they never rolled really high on the table. Nobody rolled a 7 or an 8 the whole time, and the effect went off probably 20 times. I was like, come on, man. But a 7 or an 8 were 2 actually positive effects. Wait, no, one player, Zia got, one player got an 8 once at the end, when it didn't matter. But, not the point. And all, like, whatever effect would cause something really dramatic to happen. My favorite effect was on a 1, which the player had to make a joke pertaining to whatever action they were making on their turn, which the one player got around it by going down, so they had no actions to take. So I was like, well, that's how I wrote it. It's got to pertain to your actions, so I guess it doesn't happen. I don't know. And which also means, like, theoretically, you can beat that effect by not doing anything on your turn, which, from the monster's point of view, that's good. Like, okay, you didn't get to do anything to me this turn. Like, anytime you can deny a monster its turn, that's really strong from a player's perspective. So, same idea. So it was mostly just to throw wacky effects at the party and get them to do stuff and try to figure out, okay, what do I do now? Okay, I'll just run back in, like, not like super complicated stuff to try to figure out, but just kind of fun. That's kind of what I was going for this combat. Now, per the way this is set up, before every mission, they get to decide, the players, not the characters, the players get to decide, like, okay, what's the next mission going to be? Put up a poll, and they get to vote on it and stuff, but it looks like the next mission is going to be, I gave them the option of explore a fucked up location. Maybe explore is the wrong word. Maybe survive is a better word. But that's really neither here nor there. They'll find out. That one should be fun. Now the missions going forward will be a little more harrowing. I don't know. It'll be appropriate. They're at least a little familiar with how the system and how the game is going to work and what is expected of them to do, that kind of thing. And a lot of the rewards they get are narrative rewards also. They don't get a whole lot of tangible rewards, especially during missions. Like, it's not like a D&D game where they find magic items to use. There's definitely going to be cases where that does happen. And, they'll, per whatever the entities are, like, okay, they need to find like a particular item that will enable them to deal with this anomaly that's they're right in front of them and won't kill them otherwise. That kind of thing is going to happen, but like, it's not like they're going to find a +2 sword sitting around. Like, that's not how this is going to work. It's when they complete a mission, they get some credits and they can use those credits to buy items and improve their gear. That's how this is going to work. Which I think, based on the mission setup and structure, I think that works. Whereas, like, if you were doing that in like a regular D&D game, that wouldn't work as well. Like, obviously you can still use gold to upgrade your stuff and buy new magic items, but if that's like your main source of items and, gear improvement, that doesn't work as well in a D&D setting. But yeah, I guess that's it. Not a whole lot else to say about it. It was, I think, a solid mission. Lots of nonsense happened. I got to roleplay a hamster. But yeah, we'll see how the next mission goes. But for now, the way we're setting up our Saturday night game is we're going to be switching off. We'll do one mission in my game, and then we're going to do a mission in one of the other players is running a 40K game where we're mostly Space Marines doing stuff. So we're going to be swapping off, alternating missions in those two settings. So should be fun. We'll see how it goes. When we do get to that game, obviously I'll record a video about that. So you have that to look forward to. That's all I got for you.